Hey, thanks for joining me today for this episode of Curves Welcome, a podcast about facing and embracing the curves of life. If this is your first time tuning in, this is Susie Carr. Thanks for tuning in to Curves Welcome. This is Susie Carr, and I am here with a very special guest, Jewel Veitch. She has facilitated in the field of personal and professional development for over 2 decades through formal coaching and training in public, private, and entrepreneurial sectors. As a seasoned career practitioner and intuitive business mentor, she has supported thousands of women to discover their true gifts and realize their dream of building legacy, doing what they love while fulfilling their highest purpose and potential. Her thriving inner core coaching practice serves purposeful women around the world to harness their resources and make a greater difference for future generations. She released her new book, True Gifts: Ignite Your Soul Magic and Monetize the Highest Expression of Your Purpose, and it instantly became an international bestseller on Amazon. Yay! Jewel, today we're going to be chatting about using our intuitive heart intelligence to change the way we live and work. First of all, welcome to Curves Welcome. I am thrilled to have you here with us.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here too, Susie. Thanks for inviting me.
It's such a pleasure reading all of your posts, listening to your Facebook Live sessions, and just seeing you grow into this beautiful soul, sharing your gifts with others so that they can then share their gifts with others as well. So that is a beautiful process, and one that I'm really looking forward to digging into with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, can you talk a little bit about what is intuitive heart intelligence, and does everyone have it?
I believe that every human has it. Absolutely. Everyone has a beating heart, and our heart is indeed an electromagnetic force field, and it holds a higher wisdom and an intelligence that is quietly waiting to be uncovered. And the heart intelligence goes beyond the what is commonly known as the emotional intelligence, the intellectual intelligence. And it really is a capacity that we all have and hold to speak and live and serve and act from the heart. And a lot of people talk about, speak from your heart and act from your heart. And that is those words are so true. And what the heart intelligence gives us the ability to do is to really touch into the core of what the heart is actually saying. And the heart speaks to us in various ways. Some people hear their heart intelligence emerging through words, through messages, auditorily. Some people see images, some people feel sensations. And at the end of the day, that intelligence is active in all of us and is able to really inform us and give us the wisdom that we need to move forward and make decisions and access our gifts. And, when we talk about finding our gifts, there's the top layer of finding what you're good at, and then there's the underbelly of it around how to actually access the essence of those gifts and how to express those gifts in the highest form ever. And that comes through the heart.
It's interesting because we had a conversation a while back on a podcast I used to host, and you talked a lot about, you used the word intuitive hit. And I love that word, that phrase, I should say, because it does resonate with me, that intuitive hit. And why it resonates with me is because throughout my life, I've always felt some sort of intuition leading me. So, and it's really hard to explain what it feels like and what it actually is, but it typically is, I get a feeling that, and it could be bad or good, that I have this intuitive feeling that something isn't right about something, or something is, and you need to go make an action on it immediately. And I do feel that is a true gift. But it's something that I can't make happen instantaneously. And I wish I could, because when I have these big life decisions to make in this world, I wish that's when my intuitive hits would strike, but they don't. I feel like those are the moments where I feel like there's like this silence from the universe. and and those intuitive hits happen when I'm not even thinking about needing an intuitive hit. Can you talk about a little bit about intuitive hits and what they mean to you, how you tap into yours, and how people
Yes.
can tap into that?
hmm It's interesting that you are talking about trying to access it when there's a curveball in life, or when there's a decision to make, or you come face to face with something and you wish you had an intuitive hit. And the irony of that is that when we come face to face with things in life, it's the trying that actually prevents the intuition from channeling through. And it's the head intelligence, the brain intelligence, the mind intelligence that wants to figure it out, that wants to get the intuitive hit, that wants to find the answer. And it's in the very trying to find the answers that it blocks the energy of the heart from really, and it's the intuitive heart. The intuition comes through the heart and through the heart's language. And so in order to really begin accessing that intuition and receiving the intuitive hits, is first we need to acknowledge that our heart is actually the portal through which it comes. And you said the silence, all of a sudden the universe becomes silent. And that is exactly it. It's in the stillness and it's in the silence that the intuition in the heart begins to speak. And what we need is trust and patience in listening. And, when everything goes silent, humans are typically very uncomfortable with that. And that's when the mind starts to become active and try to fill the space and fill the empty, quiet, still space. And it's really about dropping into that level, the next level of trust, and being able to receive and being patient with it. And when you're quiet, you will feel a sense of what you're meant to do. You will feel a sense of the answers that are bubbling up inside, and you can only feel that, hear that, see that, through whatever means that you're blueprinted to receive that heart language in the quiet. You can only receive it in the quiet because it lives in that still place where there is no mind chatter.
That is very powerful, what you just said. And for the listeners, I know recently I saw on your Facebook, you talked about how the wildfires were very close to where you live. And all of your posts were absolutely breathtaking, in my opinion, because most people would be posting fearful, oh my gosh, the fire is right there. It's right across the lake. I see it. I'm breathing in the smoke from it. And you were complete opposite. You surrendered to it. And you had this, the feeling I got from your post was, I am going to be open to whatever happens and I will be okay. My family will be okay. And that there was such calm, surrender, and peace in that. How did you get into that headspace? Because I think no matter what we're challenged with in life, whether it be a wildfire threatening our home and everything that we love, or it may be a job loss, or it may be COVID, it may be sickness, it may be something. How do we get into that headspace of that peace and tranquility that you so eloquently placed yourself in?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you brought it up. It didn't happen instantly. I know by noticing how quickly fear takes over, and noticing how my system went into this fight, flight, freeze. And by noticing the fear and the contraction in my body, that's how, because the body's wisdom works in concert with the heart's wisdom and the emotional wisdom and the mind wisdom as well. But by noticing the contraction, knowing that I was in fear, and then by breathing, because Mother Nature provides us with air to breathe and gives us life through breath. And so as soon as I noticed that I was in fear, I took a moment to take some breaths and to get into that quiet space and to carve out this little bubble of quiet in me, to ask, okay, what needs to be done right now. And my husband and I acted instantly, got everything packed, got our trailer packed for evacuation. And and from that place bubbled up the trust that we are protected and supported no matter what. We could lose our home, but we're still protected no matter what, because our heart is a portal of protection for us. And also, I would have to say that it's the lead up over the years of working with this heart intelligence, where I've been cultivating the trust and cultivating this relationship with something that is larger than myself. And I always, you said it was breathtaking. So funny that you use that term, but I've always connected my heartbeat with the heartbeat of the planet, with the heartbeat of the earth, and with the heartbeat of the universal force and the universal laws, and, you know, the stars and the galaxies and the star systems holds a heartbeat that we all share together. So there was such learning in that around loss, potentially losing my home, potentially losing, you know, lives. And yet at the same time, it's the returning to that universal heartbeat that actually is shared, and that no matter what happens and no matter the curveballs, there's always that present. And so that really gave and always gives me that sense of knowing that it's okay, and knowing that there's only a stream of well-being flowing in and through that universal heartbeat. So it seems complex, but really at the end of the day, it's a simple relationship and very trusting relationship with the power of the heart, and that everything is heart powered, everything, including the chaos. And the chaos comes, I believe, in order to point us in the direction of where we need to stretch and where we need to grow and how we need to come back home to that quiet place in the heart again. And that's what these fires are doing, is they're calling us to let die what needs to die and burn down what needs to burn down, all that mental chatter, and come back to the essence of the heart and really experience that renewal and rebirth of who we are and what we're meant to be and do here in the world.
Poof, there's a lot in what you just said, a lot of statements, a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. And one of the things that comes to me is the analogy of home base, is the heartbeat that you're talking about. That universal heartbeat is really that universal feeling. To me, it sounds like that universal feeling of that home base, of that feeling of when most people, not saying this is generalizing, of course, because there are situations for everybody that's different, but for most people, home is a sanctuary. It is that place where you can unwind and be yourself and just surrender to the will of life, if you will, and a place to just breathe and rest, kick your feet up, and take a break from the chaos of the world, or even the ups, because even in the ups of the world, there's a lot of chaos, because there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of untethering to what's really important when you're high and low on any of the extremes. And so for me, home has always been that nice balance point where things are smooth sailing and I can just be, I'm at peace. And when you were talking about that heartbeat, the universal heartbeat, that is a really great reminder that at any moment, no matter where we are in the world, where we are in our mind and what's happening around us, that we all can tap into that heartbeat, that home base, anytime we choose to, but we have to choose to. I think we have to consciously choose to say, okay, listen to the heartbeat, breathe in sync with it. I just feel like I learned a really big life lesson right now.
I love that. I love how you reflected that.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's universal truth. Like it's, I often refer to when I talk about heart intelligence, which is how we started this conversation, it's like moving from, illusion to truth. It's shifting our perspective. People talk about this in the mindset world all the time. Shift your perspective from being in fear to being in love. And it's that perspective shift is moving from the illusion of fear and that contraction that we feel in our bodies into that expansive emergence of truth that only the heart can give us. And it's an organ that is very much underutilized in that way.
Sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your new book, True Gifts, you talk about mind traps. What are they, and what do we do about them?
It relates directly to what we just said around the illusion and the thoughts and the beliefs and the vows that we take as a result of those beliefs at a very young age. And usually those beliefs are installed during crystallizing moments in our lives. And we take on and adopt these beliefs, which create the thoughts that perpetuate those beliefs, which then create, the behavior that we take on and how we make decisions in our lives, etc. And so those are mind traps. They are mind traps when they are beliefs that do not serve the highest potential in us. For instance, when so many people have asked me for years, I want to find my gifts. Like, I don't know what my gifts are. I don't know how to create a business. I don't know how to translate my gifts into a livelihood that has meaning. And the reason is that there are mind traps. There are beliefs that are being held inside their system around my truest expression is not validated. It doesn't matter. It isn't enough. I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not expressive or creative enough. And any version of I'm not enough is a mind trap. And it's not by any fault of our own, because we're born into this automatic conditioning that everyone talks about, where we're born into this societal and cultural influence that tells us that who they want us to be, what they want us to be, what it wants us to be, which is counter to our intuitive heart intelligence that knows that our fullest expression is actually so unique. And because it's blueprinted in our DNA, we can't just, shut the door on it, but we do. The mind traps cause us to shut the door on ourselves, and we end up abandoning ourselves. And that is the pain that most people are experiencing when they ask the question, like, why am I here? What is my purpose in life? How do I actually make it count? And cycle around in the mind traps over and over again. So the work is to dissolve those mind traps and turn the fear into power, turn the thoughts of untruth into truth. And that is the heart truth that I'm talking about.
So, wow. All right. Something that I say that to myself often. I look out the window. As a matter of fact, just this morning, as I was sipping my tea, I looked out at the beautiful tree in front of my house, and I thought, what I hope that I'm living my purpose. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of all of this beauty that I see around me? And I often ask myself that question. And I often ask it mainly because I don't want to end up living a life that is not purposeful. So that's kind of like my check-in with myself. Okay, what am I doing that's purposeful? And it's interesting. And I don't know if this is something you come across in your life coaching with your clients, is that most of the things that I do for my purpose in life are done for free. In other words, most of the things that I've really ventured out to do that bring my heart the most joy are those things that are like volunteer based, and I don't get any monetization from it. And I think that is a trap in and of itself, because I have found myself, I volunteer so much, which is a great thing to be of service. But I find that I've been doing that too much at the cost of my future and at the cost of being able to actually make a living off of what I love doing. So do you run into that with some of your clients where they might have found their purpose, but they don't know how to get paid for it? I know that's a whole different conversation.
It is. I mean, we can talk about that for an hour, but I love that you brought it up, because yes, I run into it all the time, and it is a mind trap. You nailed it. It's exactly right. And the mind trap are all those belief systems and thoughts around money, and our relationship with money, and how we view ourselves in the world, and how we view people who receive money for offering their gifts. And ironically, when you are vibrating at the frequency of your highest expression and sharing your gifts, you're actually opening a channel to receive the abundance and the money that actually is your birthright, because money is like breathing, it's like air. And all of our mind traps, humans, a lot of humans, I won't say all of but many humans hold the beliefs around money that there is a finite amount, that there's only a certain amount, that they don't deserve it, that it shouldn't be exchanged for giving, because giving should be an act of service. And the shift around that mindset, the work around shifting that mindset is indeed around shifting that inner wealth and that willingness to receive, and opening to the actual value, self-value of one's gifts, and how valuable they are. Because when one receives money for offering the highest expression, and like in your case, you're volunteering, you're talking about volunteering and all the ways that you're doing. And those things that you're doing and the ways that you're being are of extreme value. And the only thing that blocks it is that relationship to receiving in exchange for what you're giving. So it's a cycle. It's like breath, right? You breathe in, you breathe out. Money wants to circulate. And when we block it, it doesn't circulate. And we find ourselves in confusion around, what is wrong? Why can't I, monetize my gifts? And that's a question that gets unpacked. It needs to be unpacked, because the flow of money is no different than the flow of your wisdom, of your heart's wisdom, the flow of the highest expression of those gifts, however they are, however they're delivered. And they're delivered so differently for many people. And I will say that one of the things that happens is that we spend a lot of time searching and looking at how other people are doing it, which removes us from being in our own lane, or within our own unique way of expressing our gifts. And every time we depart from being in that frequency of our own gifts, we're departing from our ability to earn money.
You've hit that nail right on the head for me. It's amazing. That is exactly what is happening with me. As you're saying it, it's unpacking itself, and I'm seeing the effects of that mind shift and the blockage, and the steps that I need to take to be able to change some of those blockages. And it is a direct relationship with money from when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Growing up in a very large family with very hardworking parents who worked really, really hard for what they had in life, and never had any handouts, never had anything handed to them. And it was always, that feeling that you have to work really, really hard to make money. And also, I think something that just came to me as you were talking was the feeling of, it absolves me by not accepting money for some of these things. It absolves me that feeling of fear of rejection. In other words, how can you reject someone who's given you something, right? And it's really hard to reject that and criticize that.
Yeah.
And I think that has a little bit of play in what I'm going through.
Yes.
And it just sort of synced with me as you were talking about those blockages. So
many layers.
Wow, a lot of layers.
So many layers.
Yes. And so it brings me to that whole idea of internal dialogue. And you talk about internal communication systems in your book. How can we better talk with ourselves? And what language should we be abolishing immediately from our internal dialogue conversations?
The way we talk to ourselves, the way we communicate with ourselves is everything, and really is at the core of this. And, words are power. words hold energy. They hold an actual energy field that that transmits whatever the intention behind the word is. So if you're even subconsciously, which is usually what happens, if you think about that, iceberg example with the 5% of what's conscious is seen at the top, and then 95% underneath the water is unseen in the subconscious, and we don't even know that this internal dialogue is happening. One of the ways that we can begin to identify what internal dialogue is happening is by using the body's wisdom. Because let's say that you have a belief around getting paid to do what I love is wrong. I have to work hard. I'm supposed to work hard. So how, working hard and doing what I love don't belong in the same sentence. So let's say that you're holding that belief in your system. I can't, charge for doing what I love. The words I can't hold so much energy in your system that they cause a contraction. And when you think about receiving money, you feel a contraction. You'll feel it, a tension, a contraction, a tightness might be in your throat, your chest, your heart, maybe your jaw is clenched, whatever the case may be. But our body speaks in response to our thoughts in the microsecond that it happens. So one of the things that people say is, I don't know what's going on subconsciously. Like I'm trying to change these beliefs intellectually and on the surface, and I'm doing all this mindset work, but nothing's changing. And I don't know how to get to the root subconscious pieces of it. And one of the ways that you can do that is really to pay attention to your body's wisdom, your body's response. And a really simplified way to know if how you're communicating with yourself is leaning you toward your purpose, your vision, your dreams, and into the frequency of who you really are, your true nature, or leaning you away and into the direction of what you're not, is to literally notice what is happening in your body. And if you feel contracted, you simply know that there's a belief in there. And once you notice that, then you can make the decision to do a belief shift, which is the belief shift tool is something that I use with people that I work with, and we access all of the different inner resources, such as intuition, such as body wisdom, such as imaginational resources, such as, visuals and sensory resources, but we can start to at least work with it to shift the belief on a visceral cellular level, because it lives in the cellular field. So that might have been a bit of a complex answer to your question, but to simplify it, words like I can't, sometimes you'll notice how you talk to yourself. So that's the top layer. So things like I can't, I should, I won't, there isn't enough. When you consciously recognize how you're talking to yourself, that is the first step. And then the next layer is beginning to play in the subconscious, because there's so much underneath that is going on in your internal dialogue that you don't even know about, but your body is that portal for accessing.
A phrase that I am very aware of that I used to say, and I correct myself very often still, is I have to do XYZ. And I've changed it to I get to do XYZ. And it really makes a humongous difference when I say that. Oh, I have to do the dishes. No, I get to do the dishes, which totally changes the frame of the entire action that I'm going to take. I get to put music on, and I get to sing a song while I get to do dishes. It changes everything. I get to look forward to that instead of I have to.
Well, even when you said it, I get to, there is this exuberance, and your body was even like, your posture got really, really tall. And then when you said I have to, your shoulders dropped. It's amazing the wisdom that our bodies have this way. And every word holds so much energy and power.
Wow. Jewel, is there anything else that you can think of that I haven't asked that you think would lend some value to this conversation, to the listeners who are tuning in today?
I think that as this conversation can be related to the subject of, the subject that's fascinated me since I was little, and that I've written a book about around purpose and utilizing your gifts, is that if listeners here today can choose to give some attention to the answer to the question, what is my yearning for humanity? Like, what is it that I really, really want for humans on this planet? It is usually a reflection of what we want for ourselves. And it is the beginning of unpacking, uncovering your deeper purpose, and, unveiling and seeing why you're here on this planet, and what you were meant to be and do, and what you were really born to do is, to take your experience, and how do you turn your experience into something of value for other humans? And as you do that, how does that better the planet? And that's the starting point. Is the message here is that the starting point to knowing your gifts and knowing how to express them as optimally as possible to monetize them is to really start with why you want to do that. Why? Like, what is your deeper purpose? And uncovering that deeper purpose sets a really solid foundation for then the gifts to start emerging and showing up. And you can then start to see how you're using them as a vehicle in service of your purpose.
Wow.
Mhm.
I can't think of a better way, a better line to close out the show with. That was amazing. The last question I have is, how can people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch? What's the easiest way?
The easiest way is to reach out to me via my website. I have a contact page there, and there's opportunity to just send me an email, and that is www.innercorecoach.com. That's INNERCORECOACH. And if you then add a / and true gifts, all one word, I am happy to share a free digital copy of my newly released book. And I want it shared as much as possible so people can tap into their own wisdom.
That's beautiful. Jewel, this has been an inspiring conversation. I feel like I grew leaps and bounds just from listening to you. I always feel that way every time I read a post of yours, watch a video of yours, see a picture, and of course, definitely have a conversation with you. I am so grateful that you took time to talk with me today and to share some ideas with the listeners. I think it's really helpful. I took a lot out of it, and I hope that everybody else does too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome, and thank you so much. I see it as such a blessing and an opportunity to be able to share what I'm being given. So thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, go out there and continue to learn, grow, and embrace life's curves.